Morning, Thomas. Michelle Marsland and Thomas Kuhn from Marslands Accountants today. How are we
Morning.
doing?
Yeah,
Good,
I'm good, thank you.
great. Right, so today we're going to be talking about the Let Property campaign and what's been happening in the last month, really. Yeah, let's see what we've been up to, really. So, who have we helped is one of our first questions in the last month, Thomas.
So in the last month, we've helped a client who's been renting their property out for the past 6 years. So it's just the one property, but they expected their tax bill to be around £10,000 when we first spoke to them. So after working on their accounts, they had a few sort of larger repairs, so a new boiler and a few other expenses, and also their mortgage as well. So once we had sort of done all the calculations and everything over the 5 years through the Let Property campaign, um, their tax bill was only £2,000. So that was including penalties and interest. So that was a great result. Um, but yeah, a lot of the reason their tax bill was reduced was because of their mortgage interest. So in the first few years, they didn't have any tax due because basically their mortgage interest exceeded their profits. So um, basically in those years, they had no tax interest or penalties, which was great.
Oh, great. Yeah, no, a lot of people still get it wrong, don't they, with the mortgage interest, thinking that they're not allowed to claim it. But when
Mm.
we're talking about Let Property campaign years, we are going back before the rules changed. And even so, mortgage interest is still allowable. It's just allowable in a different way now, isn't it? So
Yeah.
for a 20% taxpayer, it is still allowable in full, like it used to be. So, and that's one of the common misconceptions about
Mm.
rental properties, isn't it? So, yeah. Do we know how this client found us?
So I believe they Googled Let Property Campaign Specialist when they found out about the Let Property campaign. They sort of Googled for specialists in that area, and we were one of, if not the first company to show up. And when they looked through our website and through sort of our various different platforms, they found us. They found us through there, and then they got in contact with us. And after the meeting, they felt a lot more relaxed than they were initially about it, and that's when they sort of asked us to do the disclosure for them.
Great. Yeah, to be fair, we have had a lot of inquiries actually the last few months because we've been using Google Ads as well, haven't we, sort of thing. So we've had a lot more inquiries from people over the last couple of months. And it's great that we can help so many people. I know a lot of people maybe don't realize actually we are quite a small firm. So we do tend to give the personal touch sort of thing in terms of, we do the work, there's only a few of us that does do the work. So we're not subcontracting it out or anything. And it is what we do every single day, not just once every blue moon sort of thing. So, and I think that pays a lot of dividends for our clients in that we know what to look for, we know what people forget, especially when it might be 5 years or 10 years ago. We do know what people forget to claim for on that, so that's what helps, doesn't it? So. Yeah. And can we tell us return on investment on that client then, roughly? What did they pay us and our success guarantee?
So they paid us 1,350 plus VAT for the 5 years of accounts. Obviously, they've saved around £8,000 worth of tax from what they were expecting initially. So we pretty much saved them, once you take away our fee, around 6,700 over
Yeah.
their total expected costs. So um, that's a great return on investment for them, and obviously our success guarantee as well. So that's where you will pay less of a fee than the tax that we save you. And obviously, the more years that you have, the more tax that we'll be able to save you. So,
Yeah.
although if you're a client or who's got sort of 10 to 15 years and the fee's a bit higher than what we've just said, we can definitely save a lot more tax over those years going forward. So,
Yeah.
um, although it might be a daunting fee at first, it'll definitely be a good investment long term.
Yeah, and we do have different ways of doing with it as well, don't we? So we have a done with you or a done for you service as well, so that people sort of maybe can do more of the work, and then we just do the more complicated part of things about the tax calculations and the penalties and that sort of type stuff. So there is different ways. So if you think that, initially somebody thinks the fees are a bit too high, if they come back to us and talk to us about it, we can let them know what the alternatives are as well. But we assume that most people want the full service to start with, and that's what we start with our quote, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so recently, what about HMRC? Have we had many rejections from them lately?
We haven't had too many rejections, but one of the rejections, yeah, it was about time that happened.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, one of the rejections we've had recently was basically where HMRC had issued a tax return for the 2023 tax year, which they shouldn't really have done once the client had been registered with the Let Property campaign. Um, so when we did the disclosure, we included 2023 in there because obviously that year applies in the Let Property campaign. But when they've reviewed the case, because of that tax return being issued, they've basically come back to us and said that um, that needs to be done as a tax return, and 2023 um, basically shouldn't be included in that property campaign, and it should just be up to 2022. So
Okay.
it's a bit of an annoying thing because obviously the tax return's a bit more work to get done in addition to the let property campaign, but hopefully once that disclosure goes back without 2023, they should accept it at that point.
Okay.
But it is something that we've had a few times now where although they shouldn't have issued a tax return, they still expect it to be done if they do issue it, which
Yeah,
is a bit frustrating, but
it is.
yeah.
And so, do we charge extra for doing that tax return?
No, so because the 2023 is part of the Let Property campaign, or should have been part of the Let Property campaign, there's no extra charge for doing that tax return. It would just be done, and it would just be another thing for the
Yeah.
client to sign when it
Okay.
gets done.
Yeah. So the only thing we would charge extra for would be the 2024 tax return, wouldn't it,
Yeah,
basically? Because that's in the new self-assessment system then. It's not
yes.
part of the Let Property campaign. Okay, great. Um, right. So have we had any frequently asked questions on the Let Property campaign lately?
So our main one sort of revolves around the letter that's received from HMRC. So a lot of the people we've been speaking to recently have been prompted by a letter from HMRC to sort of come to us well, obviously the letters mentioned the Let Property campaign, and that's where they've like sort of Googled it and found us. So quite a lot of the time I get asked regarding the deadline on the letter that you get initially. So you get 30 days to respond on the letter, but that response is purely to do like the notification to basically say that you intend to disclose. Um, so once that notification's been done, you will then get another letter a week or two afterwards, basically giving you another deadline 90 days in the future. That 90-day date will be your deadline to get the actual Let Property campaign disclosure done with all the figures and everything. So although that 30 days might seem daunting initially, don't panic. It's basically just a one to get you in the system rather than actually needing the disclosure to be done by that point.
Yeah.
You
That's
get 90 days after that.
that's the majority of our letters are that letter, aren't they, I believe?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, if there's a lot of forms that come with a letter that you receive, that's more likely to be the inquiry letter, which usually they do expect to be responded by 30 days. But if basically you came to us and got us to do your disclosure for you, they'll usually grant an extension on these because obviously they understand you're not going to have 14 years or whatever of information available straight to hand. So they usually do it, grant an extension if you're sort of getting an accountant to do it for you. Um, but
Um,
obviously,
yeah.
yeah, it shouldn't. shouldn't be expected that you get an extension, but it
No.
more often than not they will grant it.
And I believe somewhere we've done a YouTube video about the two letters as well, so that people, if they're a bit concerned which letter they've got, they can go and have a look at that video, and then that actually shows them in the video what the two types of letters look like, so they can go and have a look
Yeah,
themselves. But the key thing really is there's normally lots of pages attached to the inquiry letter, which has got a stronger deadline, isn't it? So,
yeah.
but yeah, so it looks like basically there might be a bit of a pattern then, do we think at the moment the HMRC are sending out some more letters again then?
I definitely think they've started looking into to prompting more people. There seems to be a lot more often than not now the people I'm speaking to have been issued with letters. So I definitely think it's something they're working on at the moment.
Okay.
Um, we had a spell where it wasn't really anyone getting prompted, but now quite a few of the people I speak to have been. So
And
I
what does that
definitely think
mean
it's
for them?
something they're
Yeah.
doing.
What does that mean for the landlord? What does that prompted mean to them?
So the prompted basically is HMRC's way of saying, look, we realise that you've got property income and that you need to declare it. The main difference with being prompted rather than doing a voluntary declaration is that the penalty rates can be slightly higher. It's not a significant difference, but it's just a few percent higher basically than an unprompted one. That's sort of the main difference between being unprompted and prompted. Um, but yeah, it's just important if you do receive that letter to obviously get back to HMRC as soon as possible. Otherwise, if you don't get back to them, they could sort of launch an investigation into your tax affairs, and that's obviously not the route you want to go down.
Definitely not the route you want to go down. No, that's for sure. Excellent. So yeah, this is a time normally when I go to a testimonial that we may have had recently. I've got a rather long one this time, but actually it's a good one because it explains really about a client who we've helped and how we've helped them in quite a few places actually over the years. So this client says, I've been with Marslands Accountants for over 3 years and I couldn't be happier with their services. They handle my tax preparation and provide excellent advice tailored to my needs. I was going through a very stressful period receiving Let Property Campaign disclosure from HMRC and by chance made contact with Marslands Accountants. They explained the plan of action I needed to do, which resulted in reducing the anxiety I was going through. I was blessed with their professionalism. One specific instance that stands out was during tax season when they identified potential deductions I hadn't considered, which saved me a significant amount of money. Their responsiveness is commendable. I can always count on them to answer my questions promptly. Overall, my experience with Marsden's accountants has been exceptional, and I highly recommend them to anyone looking for reliable accounting services. Their expertise has made a real difference in my financial management. I'd also like to make a special thanks to Michele Marsden, Chris Oddy, and Thomas Coombs. That's most of us, isn't it, really? But isn't that a lovely, lovely thank you there, and it's very detailed that not only is that client, sort of we helped them with the Let Property campaign, they've stayed with us for 3 years so far as well to help them do
Yeah,
their tax returns as well. So,
yeah. It's always good to hear that people are sort of grateful for the service we give them because a lot of people I speak to initially are sort of very stressed when I first speak to them and quite often they'll say like, oh, thank you for basically taking this call with me. It's helped a lot to sort of reduce my stress. So it's always good to hear that you're doing that and just helping out people who are sort of in a situation that they weren't aware of or found themselves in. And it's good to hear that we make a difference.
yeah, and that's what we've tried to do over the many years now, isn't it? We're very passionate about making a difference to people's lives, so that they can move house or whatever it is that they're in the middle of doing that's sort of like, or whatever reason, health reasons, there's all sorts of reasons why people don't declare with HMRC. And so we're here to help them do that, aren't we? So,
Yeah.
so just finally, actually, if somebody wants to get in touch with Marsden's, what's the best way of doing it?
So the main way of getting in contact with us with the Let Property campaign is to go to our website, which is marslands.co.uk. On our homepage, pretty much on the first screen you'll see is a Get a Quote Now button. So with that button, it will send you to a form where it will only take a couple minutes, where you can fill out your information and basically give us a rough idea of what your sort of case entails. Um, from there, once you've done that, you'll get a quote from a form that you'll get the quote from the form. And once you get that quote as well, there'll be a link to book a meeting on that form or on that quote. So um, from there, you can book a meeting with one of our specialists. So there's ones every day that you can book. So at a time that suits you. So basically, you can pick whatever is the best for you.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, you may also get a bespoke quote, at which point one of our team will get back to you the same day with that quote. And yeah, you'll still be able to book a meeting once you get that quote. But obviously, it's whatever time suits you, really.
Yeah. And that meeting is a confidential meeting between us and yourselves. So yeah, we don't tell HMRC who's contacted us. So don't worry about that. And it is a free of charge quote where we don't give advice, but we do give you an idea of what we're going to be able to do to help you to make sure you can fulfill your obligations with the Let Property campaign and any tax returns as well. Excellent. Lovely. Thank you very much, Thomas. And time to shine.